The massive alien ships appeared on a quiet Tuesday morning. They came without warning, their dark hulls blocking out the sun over major cities across Earth. The world held its breath, watching as these metal giants hung in the sky like storm clouds ready to burst. In Washington, D.C., General Roberts stood at the Pentagon's command center, his weathered face illuminated by the glow of dozens of screens. His eyes never left the main display, showing the largest alien vessel positioned above the National Mall. "Sir, they're broadcasting a message," a young officer announced, his voice steady despite the tension in the room. The message played through the speakers, translated by the world's most advanced computers. The aliens called themselves the Striders, and their message was simple: Earth could surrender now or face destruction. As world leaders scrambled to respond, the Striders agreed to a preliminary meeting. They chose the United Nations building in New York as their meeting point, perhaps as a mock gesture toward human diplomatic traditions. The alien warriors who walked into the UN chamber looked exactly like the conquerors they claimed to be. Standing nearly 8 feet tall, their armor gleamed with a metallic sheen that seemed to shift colors in the light. Energy weapons hung at their sides, humming with barely contained power. The Strider ambassador, if that was the right word for their leader, stepped forward. "We come to offer you terms," he announced through their translator. His voice carried the weight of someone used to being obeyed. "Your civilization has potential, but you remain primitive. Accept our rule, and we will guide you to the stars." That's when things went wrong. General Roberts, representing Earth's military forces, made what seemed like a reasonable request. "Before we discuss terms, we need to understand your capabilities. Would you be willing to demonstrate your weapons? In return, we can show you ours." The Strider ambassador laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Very well. It will help you understand the futility of resistance." At a nearby military base, the aliens watched with obvious amusement as human soldiers demonstrated their most advanced weapons. Tanks fired their main guns. Jets screamed overhead, launching missiles at targets. Elite soldiers showed off their latest combat rifles and automated drones. The Strider ambassador shook his head. "Projectile weapons, crude explosives. You still throw metal at your enemies." He turned to his guards. "Show them true power." One Strider warrior stepped forward, raising what looked like a smooth silver tube. A burst of purple energy erupted from it, vaporizing a tank instantly. Another demonstration reduced a concrete bunker to ash. Their personal shields flickered with rainbow colors as they walked through a barrage of bullets, completely unarmed. "Your weapons are children's toys to us," the ambassador declared. "They cannot penetrate our defensive fields. Accept our terms, or face extinction." But in the back of the crowd of military observers, one man watched with different eyes. Jack Thompson hadn't said a word during the demonstration. The retired sniper studied every detail, noting how the alien shields rippled and fluctuated. 20 years of experience had taught him that everything had a weakness. You just had to know where to look. As the aliens departed, leaving Earth's leaders to consider their ultimatum, Jack approached General Roberts. "Sir, I noticed something about their shields." The general recognized him immediately. Jack's reputation as the best sniper in the service hadn't faded since his retirement. "What did you see, Jack?" "The way their shields interact with different velocities. There's a pattern. I need access to the high-speed footage, and some time with the science team." General Roberts looked at the sky where the alien ships loomed. "You'll have whatever you need. But make it quick. I don't think we have much time." In orbit, the Strider ambassador reported to his fleet commander. "These humans are no threat. Their weapons are based on primitive projectile technology. Our shields make us invulnerable to their attacks." The fleet commander's response was amused. "Then let us begin the invasion. These humans will learn their place in the galaxy." They had no idea that their greatest weakness had already been spotted by a quiet man with a sniper's eye for detail. The Striders didn't wait long to prove their superiority. 3 days after the demonstration, their ships descended from orbit like giant metal wasps. Green beams of energy cut through military bases worldwide, turning advanced weapons into smoking ruins. Jack watched from the window of a military lab as plasma fire lit up the morning sky. Behind him, scientists rushed to analyze the data from the weapons demonstration. The high-speed cameras had captured every detail of the alien shields, but making sense of it was another matter. Their energy fields are unlike anything we've seen, Dr. Miller said, adjusting his glasses as he studied the readings. They adapt to different types of attacks automatically. Jack pointed to a specific frame in the footage. Look there. When the shield meets a bullet, there's a delay. It's tiny, but it's there. Before they could discuss it further, the building shook. Outside, Strider warriors marched down the streets of Washington, D.C. Their armor gleamed in the sunlight as they walked straight through artillery fire, their shields flickering but never failing. "This is your final chance," the Strider ambassador's voice boomed through massive speakers. "Surrender your weapons and accept our rule, or be destroyed." In response, Earth's military launched everything they had. Jets screamed overhead, launching missiles. Tanks fired from hidden positions. Special Forces troops used experimental weapons. Nothing worked. The aliens walked through the barrage like it was a light rain. General Roberts coordinated the defense from an underground bunker. "We're losing bases across the globe," he reported grimly. "Their shields are making conventional attacks useless." But Jack wasn't listening to the reports of defeat. His eyes were fixed on a screen showing a Strider warrior walking through gunfire. "Stop the video," he suddenly commanded. "Play it back at quarter speed." The footage rolled again, slower this time. A bullet struck the alien's shield at an odd angle, and for a split second, the energy field rippled differently. "There," Jack pointed. "The shield doesn't just stop things, it redirects them. But look at the pattern when the bullet hits at this specific angle." Dr. Miller leaned closer. "The energy distribution, it's not uniform. The shield is weaker at certain points depending on the angle and speed of impact." Jack pulled out a small notebook where he'd been making calculations. "Every time they show off their invulnerability, they're actually giving us more data. They're so confident that they don't even realize it." Another explosion rocked the building. Above ground, Strider warriors had reached the city center. They moved with complete confidence, not even bothering to take cover. Why should they? Their shields had proven unbeatable. "Sir," a soldier burst into the lab. "They've taken control of most major cities. They're setting up some kind of command centers in the financial districts." General Roberts turned to Jack. "Whatever you're onto, we need it soon. We're running out of options." Jack gathered his notes. "I need access to the armory and the ballistics lab, and get me in touch with other snipers, especially ones near their command centers. I think I know how to beat their shields, but we'll only get one chance at this." "What are you thinking?" Dr. Miller asked. "Their shields are tuned to stop what they expect," Jack explained. "Energy weapons, explosives, standard bullets. But what if we could hit them with something they've dismissed as too primitive to be a threat?" As if to emphasize his point, another Strider broadcast echoed through the city. "Your pathetic weapons cannot harm us. Your civilization's dedication to primitive projectile technology will be your downfall." Jack allowed himself a small smile. Their arrogance is making them blind. Sometimes, the oldest solutions are the best ones. We just need to adjust the equation a bit. In the streets above, the Striders continued their victory march, never suspecting that their greatest weakness was about to be discovered by the very weapons they mocked. Deep in an underground ballistics lab, Jack worked through his third straight night. Empty coffee cups littered the desk around him, while high-speed cameras recorded every shot he fired. Each bullet told a story, if you knew how to read it. "Try this one," Dr. Miller said, handing him a modified round. The scientist had dark circles under his eyes, but his hands were steady. "We've adjusted the weight distribution and added a special coating." Jack loaded the round into his custom rifle. The weapon itself looked almost ancient compared to the alien technology above ground, but he had spent years perfecting it. Through the reinforced glass of the testing chamber, a captured piece of Strider shield technology hummed with energy. The shot cracked through the air. On the high-speed camera, they watched the bullet spin through space, its path eerily beautiful. As it struck the shield, something different happened. "Freeze it there," Jack commanded, pointing at the screen. "Look at the energy pattern." Dr. Miller's eyes widened. The shield wasn't stopping the bullet like it had stopped thousands before. Instead, the energy field was being pulled apart, creating a microscopic hole. "The spin rate combined with the velocity," Jack explained, his voice growing excited. "Their shields are designed to stop objects by redirecting their energy. But if we hit them at exactly the right speed, with exactly the right spin, the shield tries to redirect the energy in two directions at once," Dr. Miller finished. "It creates a momentary weakness." General Roberts walked in just as they made their breakthrough. "Please tell me you have something. The Striders have pushed us back on every continent. They're setting up permanent bases in our cities." Jack nodded, pointing to his calculations. "Their shields have a fundamental flaw. They're so advanced that they actually ignore certain types of simple attacks. It's like they're looking for complex energy patterns, but missing the basics of physics." "In simple terms," the general asked. "A normal bullet hits their shield like a rock hitting a steel wall," Jack explained. "But these modified rounds—" He held up one of the new bullets. "These hit more like a drill. The shield can't decide how to redirect the energy, so it fails for a split second." Dr. Miller pulled up more test footage. "We've tried it with different shield configurations. It works every time, as long as we get the speed and angle exactly right." "That's why you need snipers," the general realized. "This isn't something we can do with normal troops." Jack nodded. "Regular soldiers spray bullets hoping to hit something. We need precise shots from specific angles. One shot, one kill. Just like the old days." A soldier burst into the lab. "Sir, the Striders are broadcasting again." On a nearby screen, they watched as the Strider ambassador strutted through a ruined city. "Your resistance is amusing but futile," he announced. "Our shields make us gods among your kind. Soon, you will learn to kneel before true power." "They're getting careless," Jack observed. "Walking in the open, not even posting guards. They think they're invincible." General Roberts studied the footage. "How many snipers do we have left in active service?" "Enough," Jack replied. "And they're the best in the world. We just need to get them the modified rifles and rounds." "How quickly can you mass-produce these?" the general asked Dr. Miller. "We've already started. The design is actually quite simple once you understand the principle. Sometimes the oldest solutions are the best ones." Jack picked up his rifle, running his hand along its worn stock. "We'll need to test this in the field. One real target, to prove it works." The general nodded grimly. "The Striders are planning a victory parade in New York tomorrow. Their commanders will all be there, showing off their invincibility." "Perfect," Jack said, already checking his equipment. "They want to demonstrate their power. Let's show them ours instead." Above them, the Strider ships continued their patrol, their crews never suspecting that humanity had found the key to their destruction in the very weapons they mocked. Dawn broke over a conquered New York City. Jack lay motionless on the 80th floor of an abandoned skyscraper, his modified rifle resting on a makeshift stand. He had been there for 6 hours, waiting as the city slowly came to life below. The Striders had chosen Times Square for their victory parade. Their arrogance had grown with each passing day of unopposed occupation. Now they wanted to show off their complete dominance over Earth's greatest city. "Target zone is clear," a spotter whispered through Jack's radio. Other hidden observers were scattered throughout nearby buildings, all watching, all waiting. They would only get one chance at this. Jack's breathing was slow and steady. Through his scope, he could see Strider warriors setting up their display. Their shields sparkled in the morning sun, the same shields they claimed made them invincible. "Here comes the command group," the spotter reported. The Strider ambassador appeared, flanked by his highest-ranking warriors. Their armor was more elaborate than the others, decorated with symbols of their victories on other worlds. They walked with the confidence of gods among mortals. Range: 1,800 meters, Jack whispered to himself, adjusting his scope slightly. The modified bullet in his rifle was the product of countless hours of testing. Its weight, shape, and spin were precisely calculated. The ambassador raised his arms to address the gathered crowds, mostly humans forced to attend their own species' humiliation. "Behold the future of your world." His amplified voice boomed. "Your primitive weapons have failed. Your armies have fallen. Now witness true power." Jack's finger rested lightly on the trigger. He had made shots like this thousands of times, but never with stakes this high. The whole world was watching through hidden cameras, though the Striders didn't know it. "If you fire any weapons at us," the ambassador continued, gesturing to his shields, "they will fail just like all the others. Your projectile technology is useless against our superior." The shot rang out before he could finish his sentence. The modified bullet spun through the air, its trajectory a perfect arc that had taken days to calculate. Time seemed to slow as it approached the ambassador's shield. For a split second, nothing happened. Then the shield rippled strangely, its energy patterns confused by the bullet's precise spin and velocity. A tiny hole opened, just for a microsecond, but that was all it took. The ambassador's speech cut off mid-word. He stood frozen for a moment, looking down at the small hole that had appeared in his supposedly impenetrable armor. Then he collapsed. Chaos erupted in Times Square. Strider warriors spun in circles, their weapons ready but finding no target. Their shields were still active, still apparently perfect, but their leader lay dead on the ground. "Shot confirmed," the spotter whispered, his voice tense with excitement. "Clean hit. They don't know what happened." Jack remained perfectly still, his scope still trained on the target zone. Below, the Striders were falling into disarray. Some were firing randomly at buildings, their energy weapons leaving scorch marks, but hitting nothing. Others were trying to revive their fallen leader. "All units, pull back," General Roberts ordered through the radio. "We've proven it works. That's enough for today." As Jack carefully packed up his rifle, he could hear the Striders bellowing in rage and confusion. Their invincible shields had failed, and they couldn't understand how. Their greatest strength had become their weakness. They were so convinced of their superiority that they hadn't even considered such a simple solution. "Message sent," Jack whispered as he disappeared into the building's emergency stairwell. Behind him, he could hear the Striders starting to panic. The hunters had become the hunted, and they knew it. In hidden bunkers around the world, other snipers watched the footage of the shot that changed everything. The message was clear. Humanity had found a way to fight back. And this was just the beginning. The death of their ambassador changed everything. Within hours, the Striders' behavior shifted dramatically. Their warriors no longer walked openly in the streets. Their patrols now hugged building walls, eyes scanning rooftops nervously. "They're afraid," General Roberts observed, watching drone footage of Strider movements. "For the first time since they arrived. They know they can die." Jack stood before a room full of Earth's best snipers. 30 men and women who had answered the call, brought in secretly from every corner of the globe. On the screen behind him, technical diagrams showed the modified rifles and ammunition they would use. "The shot has to be perfect," Jack explained, pointing to the calculations. "Wrong angle, wrong speed, or wrong spin. The shield holds. But get it right." He gestured to footage of the ambassador's fall. "How do we pick our shots?" asked one of the snipers, a woman who had 3 confirmed kills of Strider patrol leaders already. "Their shields have a pattern," Jack answered. "Watch their movement. Every 4 steps, the energy field fluctuates slightly. That's your window." In orbit, the Strider fleet commander raged at his subordinates. How did they do this? Their weapons are primitive. Their technology is centuries behind ours. We've analyzed the ambassador's shield data, a Strider scientist reported nervously. The killing shot, it was just a bullet. But something about its properties confused our shield harmonics. Impossible, the commander shouted. Adjust the shields. Increase their power. But increasing shield power didn't help. Over the next few days, Strider warriors began falling across the globe. Always to single, precise shots. Always when they least expected it. London. A Strider patrol leader collapsed while inspecting human prisoners. Tokyo. 2 Strider scientists died while setting up new monitoring equipment. Moscow. A whole Strider command squad eliminated in under a minute. They're adapting, Jack warned during an emergency briefing. Changing their shield frequencies, trying new patterns. But they can't cover every possibility without making their shields useless. General Roberts nodded. And our snipers. Learning. Improving. Each shot teaches us more about their technology. We're even starting to predict their shield changes before they make them. The Strider response was brutal but predictable. They launched massive energy barrages at any building that could house a sniper. Entire city blocks were reduced to rubble. But the snipers simply moved, found new positions, and kept shooting. You see the irony, don't you? Dr. Miller asked Jack as they examined new shield data. They're so advanced that they never considered something this simple could beat them. Their shields are programmed to stop energy weapons, explosives, even regular bullets. But they never thought about the precise physics of a perfectly placed shot. Jack was modifying another rifle, his hands steady as he made microscopic adjustments. Pride, he said simply. They thought they knew everything about warfare. Forgot the basics. Across Earth, humanity began to fight back in earnest. Regular forces provided distractions, keeping Strider units busy while snipers picked their shots. The aliens' perfect formation and predictable tactics, drilled into them over centuries of easy victories, now made them easy targets. New orders from command, a young officer reported, running into the workshop. The Striders are gathering their forces. Looks like they're planning something big. Jack checked his rifle one last time. Of course they are. They can't accept being beaten by primitive weapons. They'll try to overwhelm us with numbers. Will it work? The officer asked nervously. Jack allowed himself a small smile. No, because they still don't understand. It's not about the weapon. It's about the person using it. And humanity has something they lost long ago. What's that? The ability to adapt, to see our own weaknesses, to learn from our mistakes. Jack shouldered his rifle. They think technology makes them superior. We're about to teach them otherwise. Above them, the Strider ships were gathering for what they hoped would be their final assault. They still didn't realize that their greatest defeat was yet to come. The Strider fleet commander had finally lost his patience. As dawn broke over Earth, his ships opened fire. Massive energy beams swept across cities worldwide, targeting any structure taller than 3 stories. Their plan was simple: destroy every possible sniper position. They're leveling everything, General Roberts reported from the underground command center. The screens around him showed destruction on an unprecedented scale. Trying to flush us out. Jack watched the feeds with a calm that came from years of combat experience. They still don't understand. They think height is our advantage. But a good sniper can work from anywhere. The Striders' desperation was obvious. Their once perfect formations had become chaotic. Warriors clustered together, shields overlapping, jumping at every shadow. The invincible conquerors were now the hunted, and they couldn't handle it. New intel coming in, a communications officer announced. They're gathering their remaining command staff in one location, setting up some kind of central fortress. The fortress was a sight to behold. The Striders had transformed a downtown office building into a heavily defended command center. Multiple shield layers surrounded it, and automated defense turrets scanned for any movement. They're trying to protect their leadership, Dr. Miller observed, studying the sensor readings. But look, they've had to reduce shield power to maintain so many layers. The energy requirements must be enormous. Jack nodded, already doing calculations in his head. Multiple weaker shields instead of a few strong ones. They're making the same mistake again. Thinking more technology is the answer. General Roberts gathered Earth's remaining military leaders for an emergency meeting. The plan they developed was audacious, perhaps even crazy. But then again, so was fighting off an alien invasion with sniper rifles. This is the operation, the general explained to the assembled snipers. Regular forces will launch a massive attack on their fortress, not to break through, just to keep their shields focused outward. Meanwhile, a small team will approach from below. Below, someone asked. Jack stepped forward. The subway tunnels. The Striders never bothered to secure them. Thought they were too primitive to matter. The next few hours were a blur of preparation. Jack led a team of 4 other snipers through the dark tunnels, each carrying their modified rifles. Above them, the sound of battle grew louder as Earth's forces launched their distraction attack. Power readings are fluctuating, Dr. Miller reported through their radio. Their shields are holding, but they're having to constantly adjust to handle multiple threats. The team reached their position directly beneath the Strider fortress. Ancient maintenance tunnels, forgotten by most, gave them perfect firing angles through ventilation shafts and utility access points. Remember, Jack whispered to his team, we'll only get one chance at this. The moment we take the first shot, they'll detect us. Every shot has to count. Through their scopes, they could see the Strider command staff meeting in what had once been an executive boardroom. The alien leaders were arguing, their gestures angry as reports of more losses came in. Target confirmation, Jack's spotter whispered. That's their entire chain of command, all in one room. Jack took a slow, steady breath. This shot would be different from any he'd made before. The angle was strange, the distance tricky, and the stakes couldn't be higher. But as he centered his crosshairs on the Strider fleet commander, he felt absolutely calm. All snipers, prepare to fire, he whispered. On my mark. Above them, the battle rage. Energy weapons lit up the sky, and human forces kept the Striders distracted. The aliens were so focused on threats from above that they never thought to look below. Send the message, Jack said softly. Let's show them what primitive weapons can really do. His finger tightened on the trigger. The shot that would change the course of the war was about to be fired. 5 shots rang out in perfect synchronization. 5 modified bullets spiraled through the air, each one precisely calculated. The Strider commanders never saw them coming. Through his scope, Jack watched as the fleet commander fell first. The other 4 snipers hit their targets with equal precision. In less than 2 seconds, the entire Strider command structure collapsed. Confirmed kills, Jack's spotter whispered. All primary targets eliminated. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Strider fortress erupted into chaos. Warriors ran in different directions, their rigid military hierarchy shattered. Without leaders to give orders, their whole command structure fell apart. Move to secondary targets, Jack ordered. His team shifted positions in the maintenance tunnels, finding new angles through the building's infrastructure. More shots rang out, each one finding its mark. Above ground, the regular human forces pressed their advantage. The Strider defense turrets, now operating on automated protocols, became predictable. Their shield layers, already weakened from maintaining multiple barriers, began to fail. This is how an empire falls, Dr. Miller commented over the radio. Not to superior technology, but to simple physics and human determination. The Strider warriors, trained to follow orders without question, had no protocols for this situation. Some tried to fight back, firing their energy weapons wildly. Others attempted to retreat to their ships. Many simply surrendered, their belief in their own invincibility shattered. Jack's team emerged from the tunnels as the sun set over the city. The Strider fortress, once a symbol of alien dominance, now stood silent. Around the world, similar scenes played out as human forces reclaimed their cities. In orbit, the Strider fleet received the news of their leader's death. Ship captains, suddenly without a chain of command, faced a choice. Some wanted to glass the planet in revenge. Others, seeing the fate of their ground forces, chose retreat. "Look," General Roberts said, pointing to the sky. The massive Strider ships were rising, breaking orbit one by one. Their invasion, built on arrogance and technological superiority, had been broken by precisely placed bullets from primitive weapons. 1 week later, Jack stood in the ruins of Times Square, the place where humanity's comeback had started with a single, perfect shot. Cleanup crews were already at work, removing debris and Strider technology. "The last ship left orbit this morning," General Roberts reported, joining him. "Our satellites tracked them out of the solar system. They're running. They'll tell others," Jack said, examining a piece of fallen Strider armor, "about how Earth defeated them." "Good," the general replied. "Let them spread the word. Humanity isn't weak just because we use simpler weapons. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways." Dr. Miller arrived with new data. "We've analyzed their remaining technology. Their shields were actually more advanced than we thought. That's what made them vulnerable. They were so focused on stopping advanced attacks that they ignored basic physics." Jack nodded, thinking of all the snipers worldwide who had proved that point. "Pride," he said simply. "They thought technology made them gods. Forgot that the person behind the weapon matters more than the weapon itself." As night fell over Earth's recovering cities, humanity had learned valuable lessons. Advanced technology wasn't everything. Simple solutions could solve complex problems. And most importantly, never underestimate a species that refuses to give up. The Striders had come to Earth expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they'd learned what every warrior should know. It's not the weapon that matters, but the skill and determination of those who wield it. Humanity had prevailed, not with superior technology, but with precision, patience, and the deadly accuracy of those who had mastered the oldest arts of war.